thriving in that. And so I do think a deal's going to get done, but we're standing firm in what we believe in. We're not going to back down, and we can't take less. The sport has just grown too much. It would be a disservice to the people who came.
This isn't a feel-good update. It's a warning shot aimed straight at the league's foundation. Napheesa Collier quietly showed us all that the WNBA is standing on the edge of a reckoning that it can't spin its way out of. For months, the silence around the WNBA's collective bargaining agreement negotiations has been louder than any press release. And inside that quiet, tension has been stacking like dry wood, waiting for a spark.
Okay, so with that as the backdrop, we welcome in our WNBA reporter Kendra Andrews with more. Kendra, I hear what Napheesa is saying, absolutely, and the reality is the deadline is just a couple of days away. So she's saying that she sees a deal getting.
The league has grown faster than its systems. Its visibility has exploded faster than its pay structure, and the players know it. When Napheesa Collier finally broke that silence, it wasn't to soothe fans, it was to draw a line, calm in tone, firm in meaning. Her words carried the kind of confidence that only comes when leverage has shifted and the people holding it are no longer afraid to use it. Collier is not speaking from theory or hope. She is speaking from experience, authority, and timing. As a Minnesota Lynx star, a union vice president, and a central figure in the player-driven, unrivaled 3-on-3 league, she occupies a position that very few athletes ever reach.
Rev sharing is still at the centerpiece of these conversations, as they have been for the past couple months. What would a revenue share system look like? What would be considered revenue, and how would you account for expense?
She has seen how the WNBA operates from the inside, and she has seen how a league can function when players are treated as partners rather than expenses. That contrast is shaping everything about the current negotiations, and it explains why this moment feels heavier than any labor discussion the WNBA has faced before. The public framing suggests progress, and on paper, the numbers appear historic. 7-figure maximum contracts, average salaries rising past $500,000, minimums that finally approach what elite professional athletes elsewhere consider baseline, revenue sharing with no formal cap. These figures are being floated as proof that the league is listening, adapting, and evolving. But Collier's message makes clear that the players are looking beyond the headline numbers and straight at the structure underneath them, and that is where the deal begins to crack.
Of these conversations, as they have been for the past couple months, what would a revenue share system look like? What would be considered revenue, and how would you account for expenses? Those are all things that are being discussed.
Less than 15% of net league revenue remains the sticking point, and it is not a small one. In a league that has marketed itself as entering a new era of popularity, cultural relevance, and commercial momentum, the disconnect between visibility and value has become impossible to ignore. Players are no longer willing to celebrate growth they cannot meaningfully participate in. They are no longer content with being the faces of expansion while remaining financially tethered to an outdated model that treats them as beneficiaries rather than drivers of success. What makes this moment especially volatile is that the players now have proof that a different reality is possible. Unrivaled is not just a side project or off-season distraction, it is a living case study, a league built with sustainability in mind, a league where compensation is not an afterthought, a league where players are stakeholders. When Collier references that experience, she is not promoting a competitor, she is exposing a contrast. She is saying, without saying it outright, that excuses no longer hold weight when alternatives already exist.
With these negotiations, told ESPN that the WNBA is projecting that a proposal by the Players Association that has 30% gross revenue and a salary cap around 10.5.
This is where the tension sharpens, because if a smaller, newer league can prioritize player pay and shared investment while maintaining viability, then the most established women's basketball league in the world has no plausible reason not to do the same. That implication lands directly at the feet of league leadership. Collier did not name names, but the message was unmistakable. If the current system cannot fairly compensate the talent that fuels its growth, then the system is the problem, not the players' expectations. The urgency comes from the clock. With the agreement nearing expiration, the leverage dynamics shift by the day. The players understand that waiting favors the league only if the players blink first. Collier made it clear that blinking is not an option. Her language was measured. But the subtext was confrontational in the most controlled way possible. This is not a union begging for compromise. This is a union stating terms. The historical context matters here, because the WNBA has lived through labor tension before, but never with this combination of momentum and external pressure. Past negotiations occurred when the league was still fighting for relevance, still building audiences, still dependent on survival narratives. This time the conversation is happening at a peak. Ratings are up, media coverage is mainstream, jerseys are selling, players are household names. The league's story has shifted from survival to success, and the financial model has not caught up. That gap is what makes Collier's statement resonate beyond a routine labor update. She is speaking for a generation of players who watched those before them sacrifice careers, health, and earning potential to keep the league alive. The phrase, "we can't take less," is not arrogance, it is historical accounting. From the player's perspective, accepting a deal that undervalues the current era would retroactively validate decades of underpayment, and that is a line they refuse to cross. There is also a quieter undercurrent running through this moment, one that rarely gets discussed openly. The WNBA's recent surge in popularity has introduced new power dynamics, new sponsors, and new narratives that often benefit the league's image more than its labor force. Players have become central to marketing campaigns, social impact initiatives, and brand storytelling. Yet their compensation still lags behind the value those narratives generate. That contradiction has become harder to justify as the league leans more heavily on player personalities to fuel growth. Speculation has naturally followed, not because players are stirring chaos, but because uncertainty invites it. If the deal expires without resolution, what happens next becomes a question with real consequences. Work stoppages are not being threatened publicly, but they no longer feel unthinkable either. The players' confidence suggests they believe they can withstand pressure longer than the league can afford to. That belief alone shifts the negotiating table. There is also the matter of timing beyond the CBA itself. The women's basketball ecosystem is expanding globally, with international leagues, endorsement opportunities, and alternative platforms offering players more options than ever before. The WNBA is no longer the only destination for elite talent, and the players know it. That reality strengthens their position in ways that previous generations never had access to. Collier's remarks about leadership were perhaps the most quietly explosive element of her appearance. Suggesting that different people should be put in place if sustainability cannot be achieved is not a casual comment from a union executive. It is a direct challenge to the idea that the league's current structure is sufficient for its ambitions. It reframes the negotiation from a numbers dispute into a governance question, and that is far more destabilizing. What makes this moment so compelling is the absence of panic in the player's tone. There is no desperation, no scrambling, no emotional overreach. Instead, there is patience paired with resolve. That combination often signals preparation. The players appear ready not just for a deal, but for the possibility of not getting one on the league's preferred timeline. Behind the scenes, this standoff represents a philosophical divide. Is the WNBA willing to evolve into a player-empowered league that reflects its modern cultural standing, or will it cling to a framework designed for a much smaller, quieter version of itself? Collier's confidence suggests the players believe the answer will define the league's next decade, not just the next contract cycle. This is why her message feels less like reassurance and more like foreshadowing. She is not selling optimism to calm fears. She is stating belief in an outcome that aligns with the players' vision. Whether that path is smooth or turbulent, the calm delivery masks the magnitude of what is being negotiated, not just dollars, but identity, control, and respect. As the deadline approaches, the league faces a choice that cannot be spun away with incremental gains and optimistic press releases. The players are unified, they are informed, they are financially literate, and they are no longer negotiating from a place of gratitude, but from a place of earned authority. If the WNBA truly believes it has entered a new era, then this agreement will have to prove it, because growth without equity is no longer a selling point, and patience without progress has officially expired. So the only question left will be whether the WNBA listened before the players forced it to. Let us know your views in the comments below.